Welcome to the Nature Journal Workshop. This is a special edition today. I am being helped by my co-host, Melinda. Thank you up there. Really appreciate you handling the logistics in this. And we have two guests today. I'd like to introduce to you folks up here in this corner. This is Bill Leikam. And he is the fox guy and is an amazing steward of nature and old school, curious, investigative biologist who's figuring out what's going on with urban wildlife. My guest over here, I'm delighted to introduce you folks to Marcia Sivek. Hi there, Marcia.
The other direction.
Oh, well, on my screen, she's over there. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so you have to pretend you're looking at me. You look this. There you go. So high five. Ready? Oh, there we go. We'll work it out. Marcia is the host of Bee Provided Conservation Radio, and so she finds she's actually how I learned about Bill. She finds people who are doing amazing conservation things all over the world, and you can learn more about her. We'll put your websites and things into the chat.
Yeah.
And we are delighted to have you with us. Marcia is going to help us kind of unravel a lot of the cool things that Bill is up to. Bill is going to fill us in on all these neat things. Then we're going to do a little bit of how do you draw a gray fox, and these are going to be some tricks that you did not learn before. Oh, you got the gray fox before. This is next level, and so we'll do those tricks and strategies, and then we're going to be returning to this group for questions and answers from you. So if you have questions about urban wildlife and that you would that you'd like to ask Bill, you can put those into the chat, and so there'll be a question and answer session at the end, and then we're also after that we're going to be doing some journal sharing if you've been drawing gray fox or other cool things. So everybody, we are really delighted to have you all here. And thank you so much for being with us. So let's turn it over to Marcia and Bill for an exploration of the work that you are doing and a little bit about urban wildlife and these the wonderful foxes.
That sounds great. So really, I'm just here to draw foxes today. I love gray fox, and I met Bill through a mutual friend of John's and Bill's, and Beth Pratt, through an interview, and she talked highly of the fox guy, and I had to find out who this was, and so I found Bill and contacted him. And I just have always loved foxes, and I learned so much in our interview. So thank you, Bill. And we've been keeping in touch in email, and he has a wonderful newsletter. So please sign up for that. And it keeps you up to date on what's happening with the foxes in the Bayland area. And other than that, I was so excited with his story, and he's probably the best expert I know for knowing the behavior of the foxes. He follows them every day and keeps track with them. So I'm sure he'll share that story. But anyways, thank you. And I'm sure you're all going to fall in love with gray fox as well. So excellent. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, well, I hope everybody, falls in love with the gray fox, because this little fox is to say the least, unique. Well, since I brought that up, maybe I should give you one little example of how unique it is. It is the gray fox that is what we call the basal canid. Okay, it's the only, it's the fox that forms the basis for all other foxes. It is 10 million years old. It's older than wolves, jackals, any other canine on the planet. And it's thriving. There are a few places where it isn't, but the gray fox is a survivor. Let me put it that way. And so what question sometimes is asked, what are you doing out there? You know, what really are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is trying to plumb the depths of the behavior of these foxes. When it comes to wildlife in general, we do not know enough about the wildlife that's out there to really make many good judgments. And so I'm shedding light on the gray fox as my subject, just simply because when I first saw them, both when I was a kid of about 14 years old, and then when in my 60s, I came across them again. And the second time I came across them again, it became a compulsion for me to study the behavior of these foxes. And now it's been 11 years. This is the 11th year that I have been doing this work. I'm out in the field twice a day, once in the early morning before it even gets light out there. I'm collecting the SD cards out of the trail cameras. And those trail cameras show me behaviors that I would never see in the daytime. So I'm logging all that in. I've got a log of more than 1 million words. And all of that led to the development of the Urban Wildlife Research Project. In 2016, all of the gray foxes in the Palo Alto Baylands Nature Preserve between Adobe Creek and San Francisco Creek died of canine distemper. And when that happened, I thought to myself, there's got to be something within the system that these foxes live in that is causing this disease. So what I found out from the state of California, the veterinarian for the state of California, was that the canine distemper is endemic all over the state of California. And so I got to thinking, what can we do to help with the health of the wildlife out there? I came to the conclusion that part of the problem was there's not enough habitat for them to all occupy. They get crowded. They get into population densities that are unhealthy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to expand the habitat so that there's more places for the foxes, for the raccoons, for the possums, for the wood rats, for all the wildlife that's out there, larger territories, so that then should increase the health of the total environment. And that's going to run, well, at first it's going to be limited to between the Palo Alto Baylands and Moffett Field, which is about a 4-mile stretch, probably maybe a little bit more. And that's going to be our test zone. And then we're going to expand it from Redwood City to Alviso. So that's where we're at. I think I've learned some pretty important things about these little critters. One of the things is that their intelligence is different from ours. And by different, I mean that we use our eyes to sense everything around us. We're constantly using our visual. They don't. they are hearing and smelling their world the same as we are seeing ours. And that means a whole lot when it comes to all those neurons that are popping up in their brains. So,
Bill, you shared a story on the podcast about them solving problems, like getting over the branch, over the water, that you saw a family think differently. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
right, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll share that with the audience then. And what happened was that I was going into a wooded area, actually this area that's right behind me on the screen, to take care of my trail cameras. And during that period of time, this was prior to 2016, during that period of time, sometimes the foxes would follow me. And so on this particular occasion, I looked back behind me and there were 3 foxes. One was a young fox. Another one was the alpha female of the region. And another one was the young fox's mom, who I called Cute. By the way, I named these foxes. I give them names based on sometimes the color, sometimes the personality, various reasons. So Cute, for instance, when I first saw that little fox, I thought, whoa, that's the cutest little fox I've ever seen. And that's how it got its name. So Cute, dark eyes, and the young male, big guy. Ahead of me was a channel with water in it. These foxes do not like water on their feet. They're like cats in many ways. As a matter of fact, I used to call them the canine that acts like a feline. And so they stopped. I waded out and across the water. They stopped at the edge of the water. The young one just simply, he just walked his way right through the water and everything. Cute, his mom, she held back. She didn't like water at all. And she was thinking about how she was going to get across this water without getting her paws wet. Well, in looking at the situation, she decided, if I jump from here over to that willow over there, I can probably make that leap, and then I'm scot-free. I'm all the way in. I'd be over the water. And that's what she did. She leapt. I mean, they can really jump, okay? She leapt all the way across. And the third one, Dark Eyes, who's the alpha female of the region, she held back still more. And finally, having seen where I went, she chose to go the same route. She got her feet wet, but not very much. She was able to keep the edge of the water, okay? 3 different ways of confronting the same challenge. And that told me a lot about, they don't all think the same. And that's just one example. There's a lot more to these gray foxes than just their intelligence. Okay.
Who is behind you? Is that Big Eyes and Lamos, or?
No, oh, behind me now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Lamos, the male, and this is his mate, Big Eyes, the female.
We can't see you're pointing on it. Is it Big Eye standing or?
Yeah, Big Eyes is standing.
Okay. Okay.
And
Beautiful.
He's lying down.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we could probably want the drawing part of the event here. And then toward the end, I'll come back in and make some comments along the way. I don't know how Jack is gonna do this, but
Yeah, feel free to, anytime you want to make a comment, drop those bad boys in, and would love to hear from you as things are going along.
Okay.
I'm now going to show people some tricks and strategies on drawing the fox. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at today sort of speed drawing the fox. And so I'm going to show you kind of what my gesture drawing looks like for quickly getting the shape in. And then I found online a little documentary that was made about Bill and the stuff he was doing. It had a bunch of great fox footage in it. So I've taken that, and so you'll see just, videos of foxes moving around, and they move. They are crazy agile, as you'll see. And so we're going to get first an idea of how you'd approach kind of quick sketching something. And then we're going to have a chance to do that with some live footage of very active little foxes, and that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So the goal here is not a slow, careful, whisker by whisker drawing. We want to try to be able to get that sense of gesture sketch of fox in motion that feels like a fox in motion. And as we're going, let's take those questions that you have for Bill. Right now, we have the fox guy online with us. So we want to make sure we take advantage of that. So put your foxy questions into the chat. Right there. All right. Here we go. Let's see. I am going to change my camera over to this. There's my camera. So I'm going to show you all just a few little ideas of kind of gesture sketching the fox. So I'm using really fancy tools here. I've got a ballpoint pen. And so in this, I'm not even going to be first blocking it in with the non-photo blue pencil. I'm going to be just diving in and directly drawing right here with this ballpoint pen. Now you can use one strategy people can do is to block things in with your non-photo blue pencil or a light pencil and then go over that. But when sometimes if things are really active, just the time wasted in switching from one tool to the other, is too much for my brain. So when the fox pops up and it's moving around doing its things, couple of strategies for kind of critters on the move. Number one is you don't have to draw a head to tail drawing of the entire thing. So if you kind of like, oh, look at its tail, look, the tail, you see a pattern in the tail. If you try to then draw that pattern of just the tail on, you'll get part of the tail drawn and then your brain will go blank. So the trick is that what you want to do is to, while the action is happening, you're muted. So start to say out loud exactly what you see. So if you say like, oh, dark stripe up most of the way up the tail, the tip is black and really, really wide. And then I'm going to be able to, on the side of my paper, I'm going to get a little tail. And the bottom is black, and then there's a dark stripe that goes up the top of the tail. And so if I don't verbalize that, then what happens is partway through your drawing, you're going to forget a bunch of those
those details. So there was just a little thing that I saw, and then you might kind of like, you'll get all excited about the tail, right? So then I'll whatever it is, say what you see again out loud. So for instance, I can say, ooh, the tail, it's smoother along the top, it's more shag on the bottom. And so I'm going to have a little tail shape, and it's pretty thick. And
you know what they use that tail for? Why it's large? They use it when they're climbing in the trees. They're the only canine that can climb trees. And they climb it like a squirrel. Anyway, they use that tail for balance.
Oh, and it's amazing to see some of their tree climbing prowess. But so here in this little drawing, I have it smooth along the top, and I've got just sort of a sense of that more kind of shag on the bottom. Right. So say your observations out loud. That's and also be willing just to take a little piece. Like, you can't handle the fox, don't worry about the whole fox. Just get some little nugget. Some little nugget. Say that out loud, and you're good to go. When you are kind of trying to get more of the body in a quick gesture, the idea is you're going to have some information in your head for a short period of time, and you want to transfer it from your hand to the paper before the stuff in your brain goes blank. At a certain point, you're totally just making stuff up because it's gone on to all sorts of other poses. So, but while something is still there, try to get some stuff down. But I'm going to show you a little bit of anatomy stuff that is going to help you be able to focus where you want to look. So I see, ooh, there's an interesting pose. What I will often do is I'll focus just on the line of its back. Right? So what is the line of its back? So here's its neck coming down, line of its back. There's a corner and down like this. So I'd say coming down steep slope, it's flat, sharp corner, and down steep again, same angle. Right? And that is the back of my fox. So then I'm going to hang a head from that. Right? And the neck coming down, the neck attaches into where the rib cage is. So the rib cage is going to give you thickness of body up in here. And at the back of, so where the rib cage is, this part of the spine doesn't really bend. But right here, when you go from your thoracic vertebrae into your lumbar vertebrae, your low back vertebrae, that's where the bend happens. So we go, expect the neck to be able to come down, be flexible. Then you get your back. Then you're coming down for your hips. So on my little fox here, if I get this line, I'm going to I'm going to look for and expect to see a little inflection point back here. And then I'm thinking of this body in 3 sections. There is the upper body out here, kind of a ball for the upper body, then a ball for the guts and tummy here, and a ball for the hips. And breaking the fox down into these 3 quick little balls is very, very helpful. If it's turned from the side, I might get something like this. If this turns towards me more, then here's my head up here, my head ball. Here's my upper chest ball. And here is that back body ball sticking out behind it. And then here is the hip ball down below that. So I'm getting, then my front legs are going to attach into that upper leg ball. So the front legs attach into this little bit here. Let's take another look at things that spine can do. So I see a fox in a pose. I am going to want to think of what is the line of that critter's back? All right. Put a head on it. Sometimes you can give your head just a little, like we do with the birds, kind of the top of the snout line. And then I'm thinking of, I have an upper body, I have a tube here for the middle of the body, and I'm going to have a back ball for my hips down here. And that gives me a lot of useful anatomy. The neck comes down into this chest area. And you want to think of the neck as sort of a flattened tube. And so if I were then to go put, ears on this guy, your front legs are going to be straight, right? Because the elbow is kind of hidden up here in this upper body ball. Part of that is it's the shoulder blade, and it actually goes to the elbow here. So the front legs come sort of sticking out from that. The back leg I'm going to just try one more kind of quick little gesture. I see a little pose and I go like, oh, humpback, hump further towards the back of the fox. All right, so I'm going to draw a little humpback line. And then here is that first line, the back of the fox. So then that gets filled in with 3 circles for those 3 sort of masses of the body. So this idea of first looking at the line of the back, and then sort of those 3 sort of sections, the chest, the thorax, and then the hip zone. I find that's just sort of a very useful, very adaptable way of kind of blocking in the shapes of mammals. Gray fox, no exception. But if you wanted them to kind of look alive, this line going down its back, that's where you start. That is the line. If that is a lively line, then you'll get something that has a drawing that'll have some punch or oomph to it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share the screen. And at first, I'm just going to put up a photograph of a gray fox, and I'd like you just to rapidly draw it. Rapidly draw it. And so you're not making one line, you're making a bunch of lines that are going to be kind of wrapping over each other. You want your pen to be moving fast. Our first ones just kind of go for fast gesture form of the fox. All right? Don't worry about getting locked into any kind of detail. And I'm going to share a screen. And here we go. Yay. Hooray for the Urban Wildlife Research Project. Did we put the URL for the project in the chat?
Yes, we did that earlier at the beginning. I could put that in there again.
Okay, thank you so much, Melinda. I really appreciate your help. All right, so here's a fox. So before you put any marks down on paper, let's just look at this. I want you to, I'm gonna actually turn my camera to point at me. Let's see. I don't think I can do it from this view. Never mind. I'm not. Well, no, don't come back, fox. Give me that other fox. Don't go there yet. Escape. Hold on. I'm going to stop this sharing for just 1 minute. Kind of get my act back together on my slideshow. No. And also put on the Jack cam.
So Jack, we've accumulated some questions for Bill. So when there's a good point, just to let you know, we've got some questions for him.
Okay, let me demonstrate one thing, and then we're going to jump over onto these will be going on. We can ask questions while people are drawing. Right. So what I want you to do when this picture is first up, take your pen, close one eye, and I want you just to sort of draw in the air, take the tip of your pencil, and like if you're drawing me, you'd be tracing around the shape of my head. You'd be going like, sort of lining your pencil up with the head. Then he's got a shoulder kind of coming over like this, and some neck like this, other shoulder coming out over here, down like that. What I want you to do is just to sort of get the feeling of that line is to air draw a couple of times. And I'm going to be looking at you on these little things. So I'm going to see if you're doing some air drawing. Rather than hitting the paper right away, just get some fast air drawing down. And then that's going to help you kind of get the oomph and the feeling of this thing, right? And it's got its body's this chunky. Okay, I'm going to get it, right? Then once you kind of do a little bit of quick air drawing, get those lines down on your paper and get them there fast. On your mark. Get set. Actually, I'm going to jump. Sure. Here we are. So, air draw. That line coming back. Ooh, look, flat back. See that turn where the rib cage ends? All right. So it's look for that inflection point. One right there by the hips in the front of the tail. Now transfer that line to your piece of paper. And then see if you can lock in a body mass. And from there, you can go on and add to that as you please. And let's now go to question number 1 for Bill.
Okay, Melinda, do you want me to start?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't ready with that yet.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Let's go to Bill when you're ready.
No, we can totally do that. I'm switching out. I'm at the document. We've got a bunch of questions. Let's see, related to. I was still adding some more because they just keep coming in. But it looks like there's some questions about diet and about just their behavior, and then a lot about habitat. So I think we've answered some of these, but they're wondering if they're diurnal or nocturnal, and if they den.
Oh, okay. They're actually not diurnal, nor are they strictly nocturnal. They do 75%, about 75% of their hunting time is nocturnal, night time, although that's not all that they do at night. They run around, they play with each other, they have fun, okay? But as I said, about 75% is, they're actually what we call crepuscular. And crepuscular is a term that's used for an animal that has what we might call daylight hours. Okay, so in the morning after sunrise, you might see them out and about for an hour, 2 hours or so after sunrise. And then in the evening, they are out during daylight hours as well. And in the evening, before they launch off to go get their dinner, they tend to lay in grassy areas so that it's almost as if they're watching the sunset. They're getting prepared to go out during the night time. So the term is crepuscular. Okay.
Great, thank you. And you said they were hunting. What are they looking for? Someone mentioned that they thought they heard they were vegetarian part of the year.
Oh, they are. They are omnivorous, first of all. Okay, but the pattern of their food consumption changes with the seasons. So in the beginning, when the pups are small, by the way, I call them pups and not kits. This is a canine we're talking about, okay? So they're pups to me anyway. So they begin their lives by nursing, then by eating meat that is brought back by the parents. And then when we get closer into the summertime, they're eating vegetation, they're eating fruits, they'll eat. I have encountered them up in trees eating Italian buckthorn berries, which are purple in color. And what that does is when you're at that time of year, you're looking for purple scat on the ground. Okay, it is just purple. And so around the Bay Area, okay, that doesn't hold true for everywhere. So they go through a period of preferring the vegetation, and then about December or so, somewhere in there, they revert back to hunting mice, rodents of all kinds. They control the rodent population and the rabbit populations around the Baylands. When we had the die out in 2016, almost immediately, the foxes that had been keeping the rodent population under control, the rodent population went out of control. The rabbit population exploded and created an imbalance in nature out there at the Baylands. And that would happen anywhere that you had a big die out occur. Okay.
Great. Jack, did you want to do a little bit more speaking? We have some questions about habitat and restoration we could go to now or later.
I'm just going to be changing these slides. What I want people to do as you're listening, as you're thinking, write down any notes that are kind of relevant to you about this. And so you start to kind of get some written notes on your page about foxness and crepuscularity, or whatever it is that is kind of like, ooh, I didn't know that. I think I'm gonna want to remember that. And the don't get hung up on one drawing, but just try to get yourself, I want, if you are not making some mistakes with what you're doing right now, you're not trying hard enough, right? So you've got permission to kind of, I've got things where like, ooh, that fox has no neck, like that one, the neck is too long, it's sort of a giraffe hybrid, but I keep making drawings, I keep making sketches and things. Don't go slow. You want to try to get yourself to go faster. Let's go for a couple more of those questions. And well, we draw this one.
Yeah, all right. Let's see. So there's some question about, let's see, the distemper, whether canine distemper is something that can spread to humans.
No, but it can spread to raccoons in the area. So if the gray foxes come down with canine distemper, it can be communicated to the raccoon population. There are others that can suffer from canine distemper, but I'm not really familiar with the extent. I do know raccoons though. So
Okay,
anyway,
great.
so
Thank
humans, you wouldn't get canine distemper.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier that the distemper is endemic in California. And the reason why they had the die-off, I'm suspected you were mentioning that the density of the foxes was too high, and that by expanding their territory, they can have more space between them, and that could control these periodic bursts of distemper. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. That by doing that, by connecting up the habitat to make it easier for the young foxes to disperse. They're like teenagers. They want to get out of the house when along about 9 months, 8, 9 months after they're born, and they want to go find themselves a mate, and they want to go find themselves the territory that they're going to claim, because these little foxes are quite territorial under normal circumstances. Under other circumstances, they learn to live tightly together, and although the fights erupt and things like that, but they tend to get along.
So are they traveling in family groups, and do they den together in the evenings,
Uh,
or actually during the day possibly?
yeah, during the day. Uh, for me, the only real true den is the natal den where the pups are born. And for the gray fox, that is not a burrow going down into the ground. Their den is more like in heavily overgrown shrubbed areas that are difficult for you and I to get into, and for other critters too. So sometimes they'll have their pups under a building in the urban setting, and where was I going with that thought? Let me see. What was the second part?
It was about whether they're in groups or solitary, and whether they den together.
Group. They form a family. Okay, the mom, dad, and kids, and that hangs together for about 9 months until the young pups disperse. Once they disperse, then the two adults, they hang around with each other. Sometimes I in this one family that I was monitoring and documenting, Gray, the male, after the pups had left, he would take what I called his vacation. Okay, he'd leave Mama Bold at the in the local area there, and she had her places where she rested during the day and so forth. But he'd take off and go somewhere, and I have no idea where he'd go. He'd be gone for like 2-3 weeks at a time, and then he'd come back, and they'd resume their relationship. They are, under normal circumstances, they mate for life. Okay, so Limos and big guys that you saw on the screen behind me, They're about 3 years old now, and they will be together for the rest of their lives. If the situation is such that it's overcrowded, then you can have divorces within the family, within the family of foxes. And I saw a divorce one time, believe it or not. And that was back in the day when it was overcrowded. What I'm saying here too is documented by a research project that took place in South Carolina. Anyway, I'm not coming at this just off of what I have observed. This has been backed up by scientific research. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Actually, in that story, you've answered a whole bunch of questions. Someone was concerned about Big Eyes and her mate in the Baylands during the die-off, but it sounds like they were born after the die-off.
Yeah, they migrated. They came in from the shoreline area, which is south.
Great. So a few questions about the expansion. And I grew up in the Palo Alto area, visiting the Baylands several times a week. And I just am envisioning, I haven't been there in a while, but how will you expand? Is it, I recall it's mostly marshy habitat. And is that the natural habitat of the foxes?
The natural habitat of the foxes is wooded areas, like what's behind me here in this area here. And that's why a lot of people call the gray fox elusive, because they really seriously prefer living in the woods, in the shelter of the trees and brush and bushes and all that, the thickets. So that is kind of like what they prefer. Red foxes, on the other hand, they like open spaces. And so I'm getting off the track of the question, but
no, actually you're answering, you're right, spot on. You're answering other questions that have popped up too. So
I'm going to just interrupt for a moment, because I just want to, with the drawing, just change the focus slightly. What I want to do is, so while this has been going on, these are the kind of the cluster of sketches that I made of foxiness. And so none of these are kind of detailed, worked out things, but you kind of can see the lines at the back, and then I'm hanging a frame from those. And I'm not worried about these sketches are all it's kind of fun to let them overlap each other. And if you get a bunch of sketches on a page that kind of start to overlap each other and things, you can sometimes also just grab a pencil and color in one. And what that does is just makes some of them, a little bit easier to read. And it's fun to have a bunch of these things all going on the same page.
that's neat.
And what by doing this, it gives me permission to have a bunch of sort of scratchy stuff, and then you end up with this sort of fox collage.
Yeah.
And there'll be some on there where you're like, ooh, I like this one's shape too. So like not so much this guy. This guy lost its neck, so I'm not going to highlight that one. But this one over here, that's feeling a little bit more foxy. Right. So that's a fun strategy to play with. What we're about to do, though, is I'm going to up the challenge now, because rather than these static photographs, I'm going to put on a video, and you'll see every once in a while in the video, Bill appears, because this was something I took off YouTube, and it was a documentary about him and his work, and so he's got a few little spots in there, but he's on for just a moment, and then you're back to some foxes. And you'll notice that they'll be moving around. They won't be holding any one pose. So what you want to do is kind of jump back to that strategy of just take a little piece, or if you can get, a line of the back, right? Then you've got, some anchor point to work from, and get several little parts of things all going on the same page, and see if you can sort of be continuously collecting information and recording it on your page. Another way you can do that is with words. So if you want to write down black on muzzle, white commas surrounding the nose, you can write those out with words. Or you can make a little sketch showing a dark little nose and put some white commas around that, and then and just sort of say, you can, it doesn't have to be a full face, but I can just have a little kind of nugget of a moment. And I wanted to sort of capture bits and pieces of information on foxes that are moving all around. If it's up in a tree, kind of like, this is the posture that I saw when it was kind of climbing the tree. Maybe I don't get this drawing may not kind of flesh out anymore. Or, I might end up, you can play with that some more if you want, but try to, rather than just being overwhelmed, like, oh man, it's just moving, I'm locked up. Just playfully capture a little nugget of information, and then another little nugget of information, then another little nugget of information. You can't get it all. You're not doing a head-to-toe portrait, but see if you can get some information, transfer it to paper. Get some information, transfer it to paper. Remember, those words are also really, really helpful in doing this. While we do this, we can drop some more questions on Bill. But we just want to kind of play with the fox that is, well, scampering around and being a fox. And play.
Yeah, I'll see. Marcia, did you want to ask a couple of these questions?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, you can take a look at the document that we've got going and scan there.
All righty.
Hold on a second. My show was doing this to me earlier, where it wasn't showing the videos as videos. Just the first still. We'll start drawing that first still while I try to resolve the technical difficulties.
Okay. Should I ask questions while you're doing that?
Yes, go for it.
All right. So, Bill, so people are curious, are the gray foxes also in the eastern US? They're asking in Pennsylvania specifically?
Yes, they are. They're widespread. There are only a couple places in the country where they do not exist, and so pretty much all the way through.
Okay. So yeah, somebody from North Carolina was curious too. So even in North Carolina, huh?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Let me say this. Their range is from southern Canada over by the Great Lakes, all the way down through the United States, all the way through Mexico, Central America, and Venezuela and Colombia, the northern part of Venezuela and Colombia. That's where the gray fox is. The gray fox originated, genetically it's been shown, originated in Southern California 10 million years ago.
Wow. And I believe, and this is just my question too, I believe you said in our interview, they haven't changed much genetically, right? They don't interbreed with other, like a red fox. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, they cannot interbreed with any other canine. And that means then that when you see a gray fox, you're looking at a replica that is 10 million years old.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
So speaking of red fox, somebody asked, how does the walking style of a red fox compare to a gray fox? Their father saw something that they thought was a fox last night, but it appeared more bouncy than expected.
Hmm.
So how would you determine like the difference if you saw a flash of a fox go by? What would be the biggest clue to you to whether it was a red fox or a gray fox?
The tip of the tail.
The tip of the tail, because the
Yeah.
gray is dark.
The gray fox you can see right there is
Yeah.
black on the tip of its tail, and the red fox is white on the tip of its tail. And
Oh, okay.
you can see that difference from quite a ways off, and be able to tell the difference between the two.
Okay. And I believe that gray fox, you mentioned they climb trees, but red fox do not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned that makes the gray fox a little harder for dogs to get during hunting, right?
Right.
Because they can get up in the trees.
Let me mention something here along those lines. When on the East Coast, okay, in Virginia, North Carolina, and in that region, back at the beginning of our country, the plantations that grew up there were creating a wealth class in this country. And that wealthy class wanted to continue the fox hunting that they do in England. Okay. And so they first started out trying to hunt the gray fox. But that little old gray fox, all it would do when the dogs were let loose on it would be to climb the nearest tree and sit up there and laugh at you at the dogs at the bottom of the tree.
That's funny.
And so what they had to do in order to keep this tradition alive was they had to import red foxes to the East Coast. And that's what they did. That's how come we have red foxes, well, right now, all over the United States and elsewhere. It's the most widespread fox of any of the foxes at all. So
Okay.
that's how we got red foxes into this country of ours. Before then, the native peoples always interacted with the gray fox, and they considered the gray fox. Some tribal groups considered the gray fox to be the bringer of fire. Others brought the gray fox was treated as a god, a creator god. Okay, it held very high stature within the belief systems of most of the American Indian populations.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, somebody asked if they're more likely hiking in the Bay Area, then you're likely to see a gray fox more than a red fox in this area.
You turn it around, you're more likely to see a red fox than
Oh, okay, because they're more
a
widespread.
gray fox like that brush and so forth. And if you're hiking along a trail, let's say, for instance, and ahead of you using that same trail is a gray fox coming towards you, okay, that fox knows that you're there way before you even know it's there, and it will duck off into the brush and wait there until you pass by, and then it'll resume its journey.
Okay.
I've seen that happen any number of times.
Yeah, so they've seen us hiking, but we necessarily haven't seen them. So
Yes, exactly. Mhm.
how vulnerable are the gray fox to predators like coyotes and and bigger cat, like a bobcat or a mountain lion or something, or even owls.
Well, a bobcat and coyote, mountain lion, they will all prey on gray foxes. I have a friend, Tanya Diamond, who had cameras up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and she, like me, uses video instead of stills. And here comes this coyote with a gray fox in its mouth.
Wow, like an adult gray fox?
Yep.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Are they fast runners?
What, the coyote?
The gray fox, can they?
Well, I've never sat down and compared with other wildlife, other animals, but
Yeah.
they can, according to the literature, they can reach up to 43 miles per hour.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty
it's
good.
pretty fast.
Yeah.
I saw one morning from a distance of probably good 200 yards. A chase began. Gray fox chasing a jackrabbit, and lo and behold, they came right at me, and they came by so fast that I couldn't even get my camera on them, and I watched them go up the road a ways, and the jackrabbit outran the gray fox because the jackrabbit has more stamina. The gray fox burns out. It's fast, but it burns out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they seem bouncy too, really quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. You mentioned distemper. We talked a little bit about that, but you can't there can't be a vaccination program, is that correct, for gray fox?
That's
Like
right.
like there are for dogs?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
When I was in communication with Deanna, who's the lead veterinarian for the state of California, I asked her about that. And she said that would be so impractical. We couldn't even get to all of them. And so, and they have to do it when the pups are small. And if they went into a live trapping situation, you'd lose more of those little foxes due to stress than you would, then it would be worthwhile to do. So we
Wow.
just have to live with it. It's like diseases that are all over the world. I mean, you have to get along with it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's harsh.
Yeah.
And somebody asked if this is a volunteer project, if there's any volunteer work.
Well, there's no volunteer openings right now, but my team consists of 9 volunteers that are spread out across the country. And when we have a board meeting, we're on Zoom right here like this. And I have some really incredible people that have come in and joined me in this venture. One is David Johns, who is a legend in the conservation movement, in that it was his inspiration that started both the Y2Y program, which is Yellowstone to Yukon. They're doing corridor work to connect up 2,000 miles along the spine of the continent.
Wow.
And what was the other one that, Wildlands Network, which is a network, another gigantic corridor project that begins in the Seattle area and goes into Mexico. And so it will come right through. I talked with Jessica at Wildlands, and she said, we're going to go right through your property there. So why don't you hook up and we can use what you develop down in there. And that part of the project is just now getting underway.
Oh, great.
We've only been a nonprofit for 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. Great.
It just sort of evolved into needing to do a 501c3, you know, the evolution of the project just said, that's the next thing you got to do. And we did it.
That's great. We can't hear you, Jack.
Yeah, are you muted?
You must. I don't see
Oh, no.
you. Oh, there you are.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Yep. You're back.
Oh, good. It also shows us what happens when a person pays attention and cares and takes action. In order to do appropriate wildlife management, we need to have that based on evidence, on sort of really knowing about the behavior of these critters. And that comes from the direct observations that you are doing. In the nature journaling community, we sometimes talk about questions sort of like, you know, there's the let's see questions, there's the could it be questions. There's so much important stuff that you can learn just by sitting and looking. And so an extension of Bill's eyes are that network of cameras. So what he's done is just taken his eyes and taught them how to see in the dark, and put a whole bunch of them out there that never sleep. And the result is we're really getting deep knowledge about the natural history of these organisms from what you observe. That's fantastic. And as you folks can see, this has direct conservation implications. So policy based on science is an outcome that can come from this. And that's really important. Yeah. And I really respect what you are doing to get this this deeper knowledge and understanding of the organism for the conservation and preservation of these incredible, crazy tree climbing foxes.
Tree climbing dogs.
So cool. And also this, I've never known that they were like the stem canid, and that's going to just make these guys even. I always thought of them, they're sort of they're different. I sort of thought of them kind of in their own little corner, but they're like the proto-canid. I always sort of envisioned like, no, it's something like the wolf, but like the wolf is junior to this gray fox form. That is crazy cool. I love that. I absolutely love that. If people want to follow you, learn more about what you're doing, support what you are doing, and what should we do?
Well, we do need that support. It's the only way we stay alive out here. And so you can go on our website, and there you will find PayPal and Give Direct buttons that you can make donations to the Urban Wildlife Research Project.com. And that money that you donate will go to help improve the health of the general region of all the wildlife that's living along the bay.
And I know that there are people in this community who've given me incredible support through donations to support me in the teaching that I do. And if you're considering making a donation to me today, I'm going to encourage you, instead of making it to me, which again, I so appreciate it, and that's what allows my family to eat burritos. That's good. But today, I would ask that instead of giving a donation to me, if you are able to and inclined to do so, let's see if we can support this research and this work on the foxes. So if you are able to, please let's step up and see if we can support Bill and his work. If you're not able to, you can also still, by being an informed citizen, following this work and kind of learning about urban wildlife, that makes a difference. And another thing that you can do to make a difference is just an act of kindness or a little micro stewardship moment in your day, whether that's, it can be anything from a beach cleanup to picking up a piece of trash to to whatever you think you can do to help our community and to be there for nature. In our society right now, we are desperately in need of acts of stewardship, of kindness in our communities, and sort of looking out for each other. So anything that we can do to just to bring a civil connection with each other and nature back into our society is going to we're in need of that. But again, I say, if you are able to also support Bill's work, please do so. And we have the URL in the chat, and we are grateful for what you're doing and respect that. Marcia, if people want to find out more about you and be provided conservation radio, what should we do?
You can check out our podcast and show notes on my website. It's www.beprovided.com. The podcast is on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts right now. And yeah, I just do this for passion. That's my way of giving back and sharing the work that all you wonderful people are doing to help protect our planet. So yeah, feel free to listen.
Yeah.
What's that, Bill?
I wanted to drop in something here that we haven't really touched on. One of the things that I've learned from the gray foxes is, first of all, they are my professors. I am their student. Okay.
Everybody write this down. That's a quote.
And as such, I have been able to see into their emotional world. And their emotional world is just as important as their thinking world, okay? Maybe even more so. And when I got that breakthrough in my own being, my own head, it caused me to turn in a new direction as far as my eating habits was concerned. And I'm working my way toward becoming a vegetarian just because of those little foxes that are there.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and so what I really hear is, so you're paying attention and thinking about what are the implications for the way that we live our lives.
That's right.
And when you fall in love with the world, it changes you. It changes you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you all for being here. To everyone in our community, thank you so much for being here, and I hope that this was a delightful window into this world for you. We are now going to pivot a little bit to a little bit of sharing. So Bill, while this program has been going on, people have been sketching and drawing foxes, and we'll have a chance to see probably some of those pages, and also the some people have sketches and drawings that they did during this week that are not directly fox related, but are really inspiring nature journaling pages that we love to share. So we're going to now jump over to kind of the community cam. So here we have our, if you would like to share your journal page, then just hold it up to your screen. And Bill, we're going to start over in London. This is our friend. We'd like to introduce him to you. This is Ray Bonto. And let's see, we'll make your screen big by getting rid of all of us. And then, Melinda, could you make it possible for Ray to unmute himself?
Yes,
So Ray Bonto, you are live with Bill Leikam.
I will. Hold on one moment.
Yeah.
All right, you should be able to unmute.
Ray Bonto, good to have you with us.
Yeah.
So, here are the sketches. So I decided to add paint on some of them, and it was quite tricky doing these, and it was really easier to do these ones.
So those ones from the moving video, like I see that that worked better for you.
No, not from the video.
So the ones from the photographs were a little bit easier for you.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't quite bounce around as much, but practicing both of those, that one with the arch back down there on the bottom of that page there, yeah, that one, I mean, that just feels so foxy, doesn't it? And I really like your lines of the back, that line of the back that you're getting on a bunch of those. Really, really successful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Here's the video. And
All right, so everybody look how sometimes he's just focusing on what's the shape of a back leg. What is the shape of the neck going into the head from this angle? Not everything has to be a complete head to toe fox. So getting little bits and pieces like this is a terrific way to get yourself to see and record. And it's at the start of doing this, what happens is your inner critic will slam you and try to prevent you from putting any marks down on the page because like, oh, that's not good enough. But the more you just sort of let these marks happen, then the more drawing from a video like that is going to work for you. And then that translates into drawing from life.
yeah, I also decided to sketch a moose, one of my favorites. And I decided to paint it in watercolor instead of pencil because it was more smooth and I could add color pencil over it.
Oh, that is so rich. I love those dark values on it. And you get that sense of moose have such crazy long legs. So people who are really familiar with deer will say like, oh no, you got the proportions wrong. But oh no, those are moose proportions. They've got legs for days. Legs for days. Pencil miles, right? Do you love that Danicky book?
No, it's not from there.
But it's fun. I find it fun to look for inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing this, Ray Bonto.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
So now let's see what else. If you have a journal page to share, just hold it up to your screen and we will find you. You can also use the raise hand function. If you don't want to be videoed and put on, included in the recording, we'll be turning off the recording very soon. And then you can share other pages and things that won't be on that. But if you, at this point, would like have anything else to share. All right. I'm going to jump over to, I see Anne, and then down to Avea. Anne Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science. Hope you enjoyed a chance to meet another scientist today. Anne, good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. And it's so great to see the work that Bill is doing. I just love the enthusiasm and, like you say, the evidence-based conservation and dedication to such great work. So thank you for all you're doing. And I had a lot of fun taking notes, and they're crepuscular and that the basal canid and so on. And then I think the most fun that came out of mine was this two-headed thing, this idea that you've shared with us before, Jack, is it seemed like through the different pictures that you were sharing, there were some where the head was all the way down and then it was up a little bit. So I kind of did that off of the same body. So that was fun. And I didn't do nearly as much when it got fast with the videos. So
Yeah,
I need
but
to
you're
get,
willing to try. You're willing to put marks to paper, and
yeah,
that's huge. A big part of that is just being willing to kind of get something down and have that be okay. The more that you do it, the more the kind of movement and anatomy of these things is going to, and proportions, just sort of sinks into your brain and your pencil.
yeah.
So that's.
So thanks for the work you're doing. And Marcia, I'm going to follow up with you about maybe, I don't know if you've interviewed Point Blue on any of your podcasts.
I did. I just messaged you. A couple years ago, I went out to the Point Ray station and we did like a live kind of in-person video where we could hear the sounds of the birds. And but there's so much work going on. I would love to talk to you more about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
We'll do
delighted that the two
Thank
of
you.
you are connecting.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
great
you.
connection.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jack.
Great.
Thank you.
Avea, good to have you with us.
It is so good to be here. That was just wonderful. I'm so galvanized right now. I can't even put proper words to it. So thank you.
So Bill, if you don't know, Avea, in addition to being a nature journaler, is a really avid steward of plant communities up in San Francisco. She's also just really active on the ground, like yourself, going out on a regular basis, working in conservation.
Good. Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Avea. Please continue.
Oh no, not at all. I'm so excited. So thank you for putting into words why I'm so excited. As soon as COVID kind of mellows out, I'm hoping to go back to some restoration sites in the Presidio up here. Also, just wanted to share the fast sketching because I love the practice of the fast sketching. So thank you for this, Jack. Like just today, getting to do quick sketches like this, and like you said, sometimes you don't get everything. Like, okay, this one doesn't have a tail, so what?
Yeah.
Because just getting to do it, you play with so many different concepts at once at warp speed. Like maybe the one at nighttime, you're like, oh, what an interesting, what is it? Oh yeah, what interesting negative space that you get to explore here. Or okay, maybe you just look closely at a face for once, or just like the different postures and what else? Or then like, trying to get the different behaviors down. And what I find fun about these is, like you said, it's freeing. And I think that we get so tied to getting worried about how our pictures look, but it's about exploring. And so I'm going to just recommend, if people have this kind of stuff in their journals, please post it up on Fearless Fridays, because this is nature journaling too. And sometimes this is all you get in the field. So just, be fearless about it and be proud of any of the marks that you put on your page. So just thank you. This was super duper fun today. Thank you.
Great. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm now going to turn off the recording. So before I do, let me see. I just, again, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for sharing. Encourage people to go and check out Bill's work online. And this is how we, as a community of stewards, naturalists, and people who care, can really make a difference. And again, it's evidence-based, science-based research. So science-based conservation and stewardship. So this is really wonderful to have you with us. And let's see, where is, okay, oh, there you are. So, sir, thank you again so much. We're now about to turn off the recording, but it was really amazing to get a chance to look into this world with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. That's just as important